The intersection of criminal justice, organized community rivalries, and the modern music landscape has culminated in a definitive judicial milestone, shifting a long-standing public narrative from internet speculation to the strict finality of a courtroom verdict. As legal proceedings draw to a close regarding a highly publicized incident from 2024, the focus now centers on the structural mechanisms of the justice system and the long-term institutional outcomes for those involved. Welcome to Vibe Viral News. We are conducting a thorough, comprehensive examination of the recent judicial developments, the evidentiary arguments presented during the trial, and the broader legal framework surrounding this landmark case. Before we analyze the specific jury recommendations, structural timelines, and systemic implications of this verdict, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Vibe Viral News. Your consistent support is essential to our ongoing mission of providing objective, legally safe, exhaustive, and thoroughly researched reporting. By subscribing and enabling notifications, you ensure you are always informed about the verified facts shaping the intersection of media, culture, and the law. On Friday, May 15th, 2026, a significant milestone was reached in a Florida courtroom as a jury issued formal sentencing recommendations for 4 men previously convicted in connection with the homicide of the recording artist professionally known as Foolio. According to verified documentation reported by reputable media organizations such as XXL, the jury has recommended life sentences without the possibility of parole for Rashad Murphy, Davion Murphy, Isaiah Chance, and Sean Gathright. The individuals faced extensive charges, including first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and multiple counts of attempted murder. The jury's recommendation marks a critical turn in the administrative trajectory of the case, particularly because the severity of the convictions structurally qualified the defendants for the consideration of the death penalty. While prosecutors had initially pursued capital punishment, the jury's consensus leans toward permanent institutional confinement instead. According to updates published by the Shade Room, the formal and final sentencing by the presiding judge is structurally scheduled to be officially entered into the record on June 22, 2026. Until that date, the recommendation serves as the primary legal framework guiding the court's final decree. To fully understand the structural complexity of this multi-defendant trial, it is necessary to examine the individual roles alleged by the state and subsequently evaluated by the judicial system. The prosecution's case focused heavily on a coordinated effort involving 5 distinct individuals, each accused of fulfilling specific operational tasks. Among them, a 5th accomplice, identified as Alicia Andrews, was previously convicted under a separate, lesser charge of manslaughter. The state's evidentiary narrative argued that Andrews, alongside her co-defendant Isaiah Chance, engaged in the unauthorized surveillance and stalking of the recording artist during his birthday celebrations in June of 2024. The prosecution asserted that this surveillance allowed the individuals to transmit real-time location data to the remaining 3 perpetrators, Rashad Murphy, Davion Murphy, and Sean Gathright, who were accused of subsequently executing the fatal shooting. While the jury found these core elements proven beyond a reasonable doubt for the primary defendants, the legal path for Andrews remains active within the appellate framework. Currently, Alicia Andrews has formally appealed her manslaughter verdict and filed a motion requesting a new trial. As a consequence of this ongoing appellate challenge, the court has deferred handing down a definitive sentence in her specific case. Legal analysts note that the processing of an appeal requires an exhaustive review of trial transcripts, evidentiary rulings, and procedural adherence, a reality that ensures her legal status will remain unresolved for an extended period. Whether the outcome of her appeal will introduce new procedural developments or impact the recorded testimonies relevant to the other 4 co-defendants remains a subject of careful observation among legal experts. The underlying motive presented by the state during the extensive trial highlighted a complex, multi-year conflict involving localized collective groups within the Jacksonville area. Prosecutors explicitly alleged that the homicide was an escalation of an ongoing dispute involving entities known as the 1200, ATK, and 6 Block collectives.
To substantiate these claims of institutional animosity, the court permitted the introduction of specific digital evidence, including localized music recordings and social media communications.
Among the items introduced into evidence to establish context were specific audio recordings and digital media associated with the artist Young and Ace. The inclusion of artistic material within a criminal trial represents a highly debated mechanism in modern jurisprudence, where prosecutors frequently attempt to utilize creative lyrics and promotional videos to demonstrate intent, affiliation, or knowledge of specific disputes. In this instance, the judicial presentation of these materials was used strictly to establish the historical background of the tension existing between the groups, rather than as direct evidence of the physical act itself. With the jury's recommendations now officially entered into the trial record, the focus of the legal system shifts entirely away from the cultural discourse, social media taunts, and artistic rivalries that preceded the event, focusing exclusively on the enforcement of statutory penalties. For the family of the deceased artist, the conclusion of this lengthy trial represents the termination of a highly visible, public judicial process that has been consistently marked by intense community scrutiny and complex emotional weight.
From a structural perspective, the recommendation of a life sentence without parole carries immense institutional weight within the state's correctional framework. If the presiding judge adopts the jury's findings on June 22nd, the 4 convicted individuals will transition permanently into the state prison system, effectively neutralizing any further active participation in outside conflicts. This outcome demonstrates how the modern legal system utilizes conspiracy laws to hold all participants in an organized action equally accountable, regardless of whether an individual directly discharged a weapon or provided the foundational intelligence required to execute the act. The reliance on conspiracy charges has become an increasingly prevalent strategy for state prosecutors handling high-profile cases involving public figures. By demonstrating a systemic link between surveillance, communication, and execution, the state successfully argued that each defendant operated as an essential component of a singular criminal enterprise. This approach historically results in uniform sentencing recommendations, as seen in the jury's decision to recommend identical life terms for all 4 primary men involved. As the legal community awaits the formal final sentencing date, observers continue to analyze the trial's precedents, particularly the balance maintained by the court regarding the admissibility of digital rap culture elements as judicial evidence. While the defense teams frequently argued that creative expression should be protected from presentation in a criminal court, the ruling in this case joins a growing body of legal precedents where public digital statements and recorded musical content are deemed admissible to establish a documented chain of motivation reason.
The subsequent weeks leading up to June 22 will involve the preparation of pre-sentencing reports and final arguments from both defense counsels and state prosecutors. While the judge maintains the ultimate authority to finalize the structural terms of the confinement, the unanimous recommendation of a jury in a capital case carries profound influence that is rarely departed from without extraordinary legal justification. We will continue to closely monitor the official court dockets, the progression of Alicia Andrews' appellate requests, and any verified updates provided by certified judicial representatives as the final sentencing date approaches. The structural resolution of this case underscores the absolute finality of the legal system when addressing acts of targeted community violence, closing a chapter that has deeply impacted the independent music community for nearly 2 years. With the jury's formal recommendations now officially entered into the trial record, the focus of the regional legal system shifts entirely away from cultural discourse. The historical social media taunts and recorded artistic rivalries that preceded the incident are no longer the primary subject of court debate, as the proceedings focus exclusively on the enforcement of established statutory penalties.
For the family of the deceased artist, the conclusion of this lengthy trial represents the formal termination of a highly visible, public judicial process. This specific case has been consistently marked by intense community scrutiny and significant media coverage from reputable news outlets since the initial events of June 2024. From a structural perspective, the formal recommendation of a life sentence without the possibility of parole carries immense institutional weight within the state's correctional framework. If the presiding judge officially adopts the jury's findings during the scheduled June 22 hearing, the 4 convicted individuals will transition permanently into the state prison system. For the family of the deceased artist, the conclusion of this lengthy trial represents the formal termination of a highly visible public judicial process. This specific case has been consistently marked by intense community scrutiny and significant media coverage from reputable news outlets since the initial events of June 2024. From a structural perspective, the formal recommendation of a life sentence without the possibility of parole carries immense institutional weight within the state's correctional framework. If the presiding judge officially adopts the jury's findings during the scheduled June 22 hearing, the 4 convicted individuals will transition permanently into the state prison system.
This strategic legal approach historically results in uniform sentencing recommendations across co-defendants. This pattern is clearly observed in the jury's recent decision to recommend identical life terms for all 4 primary men involved in the prosecution's main case. Thank you for tuning in to Vibe Viral News for this highly detailed, objective, and structurally safe legal report. We remain dedicated to bringing you comprehensive, long-form examinations of the verified facts shaping today's media landscape, free from sensationalism or unconfirmed bias. Please remember to subscribe to Vibe Viral News and select the notification bell to ensure you never miss an essential update on major legal milestones and cultural developments. Like this video to support our commitment to factual journalism and join our growing community of analytical viewers. This has been Vibe Viral News, keeping you informed with clarity, precision, and accuracy.